Hey, look who here.
Hey, my man Jules.
Hey, Sam, my brother. Come on in. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Say, everybody, Sam is here.
Hey, everyone.
Brother, I heard about that new single. Wow.
Thanks, brother.
Hey, you have your on?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me hear you do that thing. Get down like you know. Feeling this groove, it will make you move. So I hope that you bought those dancing shoes. Let's be cool, have a dance with Jules. House party joy, we know those rules. Having fun, believe that's my mission. And this that sound that you love to rock with you. Thing now. Do that thing now.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It is now time for the Indie Live Spot right here on your station GHP Radio, your independent music source. right,
How long are we on the air?
Welcome to the show. This is the Indie Live Spot, GHP Radio, live streaming on YouTube. And we're very excited today for our great music guest today. Mr. Greg Adams is here with us today, and we're going to be talking with him. He has a brand new a CD, The Conversations, and it's just a very, very nice compilation of some great music, and we're very excited to welcome him to the show. So please help me welcome Mr. Greg Adams.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be here.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show, sir. We're very, very excited about having you today.
Well, thank you.
Yes. Music's great, and of course, you know, you have a long history, of course.
Yeah.
And, so we're very excited to talk with you, and also get into the music as well. But this brand new piece of work that you have out right now, could you tell us a little bit about this introduction of this conversation compilation?
Well, this is the latest album this is our fourth CD as East Space Soul, and it's called Conversation. And it's just you hope that every time you do a new CD, I always try to reinvent my wheel and move forward and not kind of stay in the same place. And I think we did a good job this time. We changed studios, we changed engineers, and we took a new direction, which I think was really healthy for the band. And this is an ensemble project. My name is on it, but it couldn't be East Bay Soul without the guys in the band, who are some of the best musicians I've ever played with, and I've played with a lot of musicians over my career, being on so many recording sessions. But this one was really special. I think it's always in the song. I think, and there's some great songs on this record, some great performances, and we have a new single coming out. Next week, going for ads at radio, and it's called Possibilities. And it features the whole band, and it's a funk song, yet smooth enough, I think, to appeal to radio and all kinds of good stuff. So we hope everybody likes it and checks it out and comes to see the band play. One of my bandmates, Nick Milo, who is also the co-producer on this record, we played in Tower of Power together and have done several projects together over the years. And we met when he was playing with Bonnie Hayes, and they were opening for Huey Lewis and the News, and the horn section, Tower of Power horn section, was playing with Huey Lewis at the time, which we stayed with him for like 11 years, toured the world. But Nick and I hit it off right away. We became fast friends, and he ended up in Tower of Power. We had wrote several instrumentals together. Ironically, we even did some Playboy videos, the music for Playboy videos, way back in the 80s. We've done a whole lot of stuff. But Nick produced this with me, and we've written most of the material together on this record. So it's a really dynamic piece of music, a selection of music. So, like I said, I hope everybody enjoys it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I certainly have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome music.
And you talked a little bit about the Tower of Power thing. That was something that you was in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that come get started? I guess when you came.
Well, in a capsule story, I'll just say that I was in high school and I graduated in 1970. But in the late '68 and '69 and '70, I was a professional musician. I was playing in clubs and stuff like that because I grew a mustache and kind of looked old enough to do it. And I knew these guys, Tower of Power. They used to be a band called the Motowns, and they had changed their name to Tower of Power. And I graduated high school, and I was going to go to Berkeley in Boston. And they called me. I knew, we were on first name basis, but I'd never played with them. And they were in the studio doing their first record, and they had an opening on trumpet. And so I said, well, I'm going to go to school. I said, why don't you just come over and audition and let's see how it works. And it worked out real well. And so I stayed with the band for 25 years, and I left in 1995. And the day after I put in my 2-week notice, I heard from Epic Records, which was the label that the band was on. Okay. And we were in Germany at the time. And they said, well, we're sorry to see you go, but since you're a principal on the recording contract, we'd like to offer you a solo contract in this new genre called Quiet Storm. It wasn't really smooth jazz. It was just moving into smooth jazz. And I really didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I needed to do something different with my life. I was getting tired of playing the same old show every night, and I wanted to do something different. And so I said yes to that contract. We did the first CD. It was called Hidden Agenda. And I put out a single, a cover of Sade's Smooth Operator, and it went crazy. I mean, I was number one for 5 weeks on the charts, and it kind of put me on the map. And so I don't even know how many records I've done. As a solo artist, I think it's probably about maybe 9 or 10 now. Maybe 9 or 10. I'm not sure. But we've developed this East Bay Soul. It came out of me wanting to do something a little different than the smooth jazz thing, which is, it's been good to me. But I like I said, I'd like to reinvent. I like to do something different. And I felt a real comfort of going back to a large band, because that's where I come from. And I'm an arranger. Yeah. So I was the arranger for Tower of Power, and I created that sound of the horn section being so up front in the sound of the band. And so I wanted to do something different and come back and maybe do something like that circa 2008. And so now it's 18, and we've developed over the years, and the band, it's more a contemporary sound, yet a classic sound of R&B. But it's just a little more modern and a little bit more forward in its, I think, its approach, And so it's a great laboratory, this band, to test out new things and different things. And like I said, it's all about the songs. And there's some great songs on this album. There's one ballad that was written by Rocky Moffett, a collaborator of ours who's written several songs with us. It's called Our Love Divine. Mm-hmm. It's full orchestra, and it just came out great. And it's the song that we're kind of, as I was saying, the Grammy nominations are around the corner, and the first round of voting is coming around, and so we put in for like Song of the Year, solo, best traditional R&B performance, and that's Our Love Divine is in that category. The best engineered album, Kenji Nakai and Stephen Sherrard are engineers, and so we're just trying to cover all our bases, because it's that time of year, and you try to get a little bit recognition for what you're trying to do here. So we're excited about that aspect of what's going on with that, and so we'll see. It's early in the competition, but we have our fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly hope you guys win that nomination and get in there. Cool. Now, how did that?
Well, a nomination is quite a feat, also. So we'll see. I'm not holding my breath, but we'll see.
Yeah, we were just talking, behind the scenes there when you was with Tower of Power. I know that you was with Crying Lenny, which is Lenny. Y'all didn't know who it was.
I hadn't heard that.
But that's Lenny Williams. And you said that you tried to get him to do the vocal with the East Bay Soul, right?
Yeah, it was early in the conception of the band, and I thought maybe that might work. But it just, sometimes you can't go back. Right. And it just didn't work out chemistry-wise, and so we moved on, and we had Phil Perry with us for a moment, and Tom Scott on saxophone for a moment. And this band is such a great group of players that I have to have a deep bench, because some guys get called away and I have to be able to call on somebody else to fill into their shoes. So I've always had a lot of guys who are eager to sub for somebody who can't make it. So, while we have a core band and they're, 99% always there, but I have to do some tap dancing once in a while to fill a spot on an availability, because down 2 months from now when a gig gets booked, they're not available. So it's just part of being a band leader, and you roll with the punches. I used to sweat it and go, no, you can't make it, and now it's just like, well, okay, here you go. You just kind of roll with the punches and adjust. And I always can depend on anybody that I call. And they all have the book, so they know the book. And interestingly enough, we're getting ready to, since Christmas time is just around the corner, we do a Christmas show every year. It's called Sweet Soul Christmas. And I've done about 7 or 8 arrangements of classic Christmas songs, like the Christmas song and Walking in a Winter Wonderland, and just a whole, and we play it, and it's just such a warm evening of music. We do part of our regular stuff, but we throw in the Christmas music, and we even get out the Santa hats for the guys in the band to wear at least one time on one song. But it's a good time. We wherever we play it, I always call it the Club Snugsville, because it's got a little warm feeling about it. Christmas music is just, it's all about, the good vibe that it throws out there. So that's going to be good. We got a few of those shows coming up this year, and we got a lot of shows coming up. We're going to play Yoshi's in Oakland and Jazz Alley in Seattle. Trying to get into Blue Note in Napa, and even Tokyo and Nagoya, and got a lot of stuff coming up. But we have to get to the East Coast, because we've got a big following back there, but it's just a tough one to get. It's so far away, and to string a bunch of gigs together, you need like an anchor, a big one,
exactly,
like a festival, and then you can branch out. We did Bethesda, Maryland a few years ago, and what is that? Everybody knows the name of that club. It's a Bethesda Blues and Jazz or something like that. It's a really nice place. There was one guy that came and saw the band, and he was the booker of talent on the Capital Jazz Cruise. So we went to Bermuda last year, and we flew to New York the night on a red eye, and got on the ship, and we were on there for a few days and played one show. And amazingly, the thing about that is usually they take one artist, a single artist, and then they have a ship band that accompanies every artist. And I've done that a couple of times. I did the Dave Koz and then another cruise on Celebrity, and but this time they wanted the whole band. And when I told Dave Koz that, he did a double take. They took the whole band. That saved the money, and so by just having the ship band accompany, and and I said everybody had a veranda, with the patio on it, the really expensive cabin, and I was doing this record with Dave and Rick Braun. It's the Summer Horns too, and I did some arrangements on that record, and they both were like, wow. So, it was really a great time. And the band, all we did was play one night at midnight. And we blew the place away. And it was really good for the band. And just cruising is a lot of fun anyway. I've done it a few times, and we have a great time. So, but, we're staying busy. And like I said, this new single coming out, Possibilities, it's next week. We're going, I think we've been added to 6 radio stations now already. So we're hoping for good things, big things.
Very cool.
Hope so.
Now, where did the name East Bay So come from?
Well, it's kind of it's funny, having been in Tower of Power, and that East Bay is like Oakland, and San Francisco is across the bay, okay. and Oakland is more rhythm and blues, just because of the makeup of the demographic of people who live in Oakland and Alameda County. San Francisco is always the rock and roll town. I lived in a little small community south of San Francisco, Daly City, where I went to high school. It's more Go Rams, and so I always lived on that side of the bay. And when I was asked to join Tower of Power, then I thought, okay, here I'm going across the bridge a lot. But I figured, well, East Bay has a sound, and I'm a big contributor to the sound of the Tower of Power and East Bay band. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it kind of seemed like that moniker could work, and so I wanted to have an ensemble. So it's East Bay Soul. That's the name of the band. And it's a 9-piece band, and I think it's a fitting name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, how many vocals do you have? Just one. How many vocals do you have on with East Bay?
Just Daryl. He's our singer, our designated singer, and he sings 5 of the 10 songs, and he sings this song I was talking about earlier on, Our Love Divine, and Where Do We Go From Here is another one he sings, and
Spanish Moon.
Spanish Moon. And one of the things that we did that has been real kind of a cool thing, but we used to do a couple of covers when we would want to do something. We did Al Green's Let's Stay Together,
which I love. Yes. Yeah,
and then we also did because I did the arrangement for Luther Vandross of You Got Me Going in Circles many years ago. I said, hey, Daryl, is this key good for you? Because I had the arrangement just sitting in a filing cabinet. And so Luther had sang it. We did it on the His Songs album. And so the arrangement was just there. And Daryl said, yeah, I can do that. So we started playing it live, but we hadn't recorded it. So I'd be at the CD table after the gigs signing, and people asked me, well, what record is that one on? And I said, well, we haven't recorded that. And a light bulb goes off on top of my head. We got to record those songs. So we recorded them, and they just go over big live. And so on this new CD, on Conversation, we were thinking of doing, well, what can we do? Would be a good cover song that everybody will recognize, and I was thinking, how about Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis? Mm-hmm. And Andrea, my wife, said, no, what's that other one? What's that other one? Oh, what is it? And we're trying to figure out what it was. And Try a Little Tenderness.
Yes.
So we recorded that, and we kind of stuck to the original. Sometimes it's, if you can just do a great rendition of an original, I took the horn opening, and it was only 3 horns, the Memphis horns, on the original recording with Otis. And of course we have 5 horns, so I fleshed it out to nice, real pretty, and nice, interesting chords. And we lately at the gigs, we end with that, and we play the little horn thing. Da, 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 da. And then when Daryl comes in with the vocal, the audience goes ape. I mean, they go,
of course.
So, and we finished it. And when we recorded it, I was in the booth, and the rhythm section was in the recordings in the studio, and Herman Matthews, our drummer, he was facing the glass, and the guys got to the ride out, and it was just like a roaring freight train by that point. And Daryl had screamed, and it's just the horns are in and everything's in. It's just, and you know, when you do something like that, you know, you got to put a fade on it, you know, and you got to just let it fade out. And I'm trying to get Herman's attention. I'm waving him, and he's not looking up. He's just into it, and the whole band is into it. And I'm trying to get him to just keep going. Just let it go. And then we did. He looked up and got my attention. I said, you know, like when you go, your eyes to my eyes and that kind of thing. Yeah. And he got what I was saying, and no words were needed. And so we ended it, and we put an ending on it. And we actually had to cut a little bit of it out because it went for like 9 minutes.
Wow.
So we put an ending on it. It was a total live moment in the studio where it was not rehearsed. It was like, just, okay, guys, let's do it. And Herman got everybody's attention in the studio, and it came off beautifully. But it's what we closed the record with. And it's like, I always like to end my CDs with something a little, you know, thoughtful or you know, evoking something to go away, you know, feeling good about. And so I thought this would be a good closer. And I'm happy with the sequencing on this. It came out real good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
What would you say your favorite genre is in music, of course?
In music, well, you know, I'm a real chameleon when it comes to what I like in music. I love classical music. I love jazz. I love R&B. You know, I've done so many recording sessions over my career. Probably I've done around 900 records with different artists, from Annie Lennox to the Rolling Stones to Celine Dion to Dionne Warwick to Santana to Little Feat to you know, the list goes on. And because of that, and those are the days, Elton John, all these recordings. And the thing that really got the ball rolling was Linda Ronstadt's a good friend, and we had done a Dick Clark Rockin' New Year's Eve on the Queen Mary, and
wow.
She was on the show, Tower was on the show, the Pointer Sisters were on the show, George Carlin hosted it, Billy Preston was on the show.
Wow. Wow.
We met Linda, and then a few years later, Elton John was doing Caribou, and they had put some horns on, but they didn't care for it. And Linda said to her manager, who was Peter Asher, told him about us. And he got word to Gus Dudgeon, the producer of Elton's records at the time. And all of a sudden, we got the phone call. And that was the beginning of a very huge recording career for the horn section. I mean, we did the Elton John stuff here in LA, but we were still living in the Bay Area. And the record plant in Sausalito, which is just across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, was a really prominent and busy recording studio. And we were almost like a horn section in residence at that time.
Wow.
And we were doing session after session, and people were flying in to have us put on their records and overdub the horns. And Michelle Zarin, who managed the record plant at that time, she was setting things up for us left and right, and getting the time set up and you know, coordinating us to be available. And she knew what our schedule was, and ironically, she later went on to manage Tower of Power for several years and was the best manager that the band ever had. You know, took the band to new places that we'd never been. But she to this day, she is a dear friend. Hi, Michelle. I know you're out there. And we love you. At that time, she was. It was a very popular studio. Sly and the Family Stone worked there a lot, and I did a Sly Stone session that had. It was actually, and this is crazy. It was Bill Wyman, the bass player from the Rolling Stones, and Sly played guitar on it. And they built a room for Sly Stone there. They called it the Pit.
Wow.
And it was. It was in the shape of an ace of spades, all shag carpeting.
Wow.
It was crazy. And
Shagadelic, baby, yeah.
I know.
it was nutso. And this date went. I think we did 2 songs. The recording session went about 18 hours.
Wow.
Because Sly was about 14 hours late, and we were there getting paid, waiting for Sly, and it was one of the most lucrative recording sessions I'd ever done in my life.
Wow.
Sly, it was
You got
crazy.
paid that day.
It was Van Morrison on piano, Jim Keltner on drums, who played with the Stones and everybody else in the world. Who else? Jeez, I can't remember. Anyway, it was a really crazy era, but with the horn section played with everybody. I mean, we did a soundtrack for the remake of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Seriously? Wow.
And Sir George Martin produced it, and Jeff Emmerich, late Jeff Emmerich, who recorded all the Beatles tracks in the day, was the engineer. And I fully expected to be playing George Martin's arrangements for this. And no, he said, "No, Greg, I want you to do the arranging." So what an honor it was for me to work with Sir George Martin. And that's a pretty big feather in my cap as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
I'm on the Beatles, so it's.
Jeez. Talk about legends.
Recording. What are the challenges of recording horns? You say your horn section, I would imagine it's trumpet, saxophone, trombone, maybe.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges, and do you record all together or one layer at a time?
Yes, we the 5 or the key section is 4 pieces. On the live shows, Daryl, when he's not singing, he picks up his tenor sax and plays. And he's a great tenor sax player. But it's 2 trumpets and 2 saxes. Lee Thornburg, who plays lead trumpet, he also plays trombone. And then the saxophone players, they double and triple on alto, tenor, baritone, flutes. And if I'm doing an arrangement for like maybe 10 horns, well, the 4 of us will lay down the first 4 parts, and then we'll overdub the next 4 parts, and then we'll overdub the last 2 parts.
Yeah.
You just build it, it's called tracking, overdubbing, and.
So do you guys play together? Do you have like a trumpet and saxophone recording at the same time with the band?
Yes. We record. We're in the studio, just the 4 of us, with headphones and the microphones, obviously, and we listen to the track through the headphones, and we play along with the rhythm track, and then we finish that first take. Then we go back and they switch tracks, and we perhaps switch instruments, and then overdub on top of what we've already done, and it just builds it till my arrangement is complete.
Well, that I would like to be a fly on the wall to see that happen.
It's funny,
It sounds exciting to me.
Yeah, it's fun. I never get tired of it. It's what I do for a living, so I enjoy it. And if you enjoy what you do, it's not really work.
Right. That's right. Do you guys prepare before you go into the studio, or is the chart just new in front of you and you're sight reading?
Yeah, it's sight reading. We don't rehearse. We rehearse it in the studio as we play along with the track, and when the engineer is getting sounds on the microphones of each instrument, we'll kind of rehearse and go over stuff. And if there's a mistake somewhere, we'll correct it. And, it takes a couple of times. Sometimes we get lucky and we get it on the first take. But generally, all the guys are really good sight readers, so there's not really a problem on that. So, when I left Tower, I put together, before I started this whole East Bay Soul thing, I put together a horn section in LA of the who's who of cats that are, the best in the world. I mean, I had Chuck Finley was playing lead trumpet for me, and Tom Scott would play with me once in a while, and it just was a great 5-piece, and we were doing soundtracks and stuff like that. I did a big soundtrack for Stanley Clark was the composer, and I did a bunch of arrangements for a cute little movie called Little Big League. And it was really a nice movie, and there's just music all over the place, and from big band to Booker T and the MGs is on it. We played with them on it, and it's a really nice movie. So, and then I did a Top Gun years ago, and I did The Mask, and a lot of Whoopi Goldberg movies and Nun movies. Anyway, so then we got the guys together, and out of this horn section that I'd been working with for several years, it came to be, and it's Lee Thornburg, as I said, is playing lead trumpet, and myself on trumpet, and my old schoolmate Johnny Beaumont on all the saxophones, and we've had a lot of saxophone players in like the fighter pilots, the tenor solo soloist. And so it's fluid. Like I said, I have to have a lot of subs. So I have a lot of guys, because they're such good players. Sometimes they get called away to do something that they need to do. So it's a great section. So anyway, that's we're happy the band is really, we're going on all 10 cylinders now. It's really sounding great. We just did the Oxnard Jazz Festival a few weeks ago. Up in California, and it was a lot of fun. Had a great time.
Cool. Well, G, should we fill the ears of our listeners with this great music?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let them get a taste.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's just start from the beginning. Let's do conversation.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
Is there anything you'd like to say about this particular track?
The track Conversation?
Yes, sir.
Well, I started writing this song. It was the first song that kind of came out of this record, and it's not indicative of what we're kind of known for, which is this kind of a R&B funk thing. This is more like, if I were to characterize it, it almost is like a Herbie Hancock send up. I mean, it's real sleepy and mellow, and it's like a conversation. We talk back and forth, and music is a conversation. It's a language.
Yeah. And
the better we play or the better we speak, the more well understood we are. So I always kind of equate music to language. The better you can speak, the more you're understood, and the less you say can be more meaningful than a lot of words. So this song is about less is more.
All right.
Nice.
I love it. All right. Well, listeners, let's check this out. And then, of course, we'll be back. If you just tuned in, we are talking to Mr. Greg Davis and
Adams.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Greg Adams.
That's my apologies there. I was sitting there thinking about something else too at the same time. My mind kind of drifts sometimes. But yeah, Mr. Greg Adams of East Bay Soul, and we're gonna listen to this. So listen to this, and then we'll be right back. So y'all keep it locked right here. Don't go anywhere. And that was some great music there from our guest, Mr. Greg Adams. That was Look Book, and then before that, you heard Conversations, the title of the actual album there. And we're back, and if you're just tuning in, man, the music's just awesome, isn't it, you guys?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely. And while we were off air,
mm-hmm.
I had asked Greg about, because I saw a video of them performing at a baseball game for the Giants, the national anthem. It was just the horn section.
Yeah.
So I just wanted, if you could just share that story with us, with our listeners.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Well, I did that arrangement many years ago when I was in Tower Power. And the Tower Power Horns would do it for Giants games and Raiders games and 49er games, and we even did it for the last playoff game when the Giants were when they went to the series, and it was a Bay Bridge series. It was San Francisco and Oakland, I think. I think that was it. Anyway, the week later. Game 1 of the World Series at the Candlestick, which is the old ballpark. Mm-hmm. The earthquake hit, the big one that really, this is like in I can't remember the year, but mm-hmm. It was the big one that collapsed freeways and several people were killed and part of the Bay Bridge collapsed. Well, where they had us in a dressing room before we played, it was kind of like a greenskeepers places. The end of the first baseline, end of the stadium, and no big deal. We walked out, played the anthem, and went upstairs to the skybox that they had for us, and we watched a game. The next week, the earthquake hit, and the room that we were in collapsed.
Whoa.
We wouldn't be with you today.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was quite an earthquake. So anyway, but I did this arrangement several years ago, and we did it again at AT&T Park for the San Francisco Giants a couple years ago, and which is a fabulous ballpark. It's just beautiful. It's brand new. Mm-hmm. It's right on the bay, and so we did we did it, and it just so happened to be the day that my high school graduation class of 1970 had a block of seats way up on the third baseline, and so it was kind of funny because I went up and said hi to the kids, as I was saying before. We're all in our 60s now, and so it was fun to see everybody. I was saying earlier, when we would play Yoshi's in Oakland or San Francisco, Oakland is the only one open now, but mm-hmm. It would be like a class reunion for me because so many of my schoolmates would come to see the band, and it's always great to see. And some I've stayed in touch with, some not so much, but there's some real loyal fans that are also mm-hmm. classmates of mine. So it's always great to see them, and that was my high school reunion because I couldn't go to my 40th high school reunion because I was working. So mm-hmm. Show must go on.
Right, but what was so funny that, you know, after, I mean, you guys sounded amazing when you played the national anthem.
Oh, thanks.
And then what I started to laugh when you guys started walking off the field, and I can't remember what song was being played over the PA system, and Lee started dancing. Okay, then Lee will start.
Yeah, he couldn't help himself. This damn 7 Days Soul Man.
I was laughing so hard. I said, wait a minute, I got to say it again.
Yeah, it's funny.
He was just dancing his feet off. It was too funny.
Yeah, and if you look closely at the bottom of the screen, you can see Andrea standing there. Andrea manages the band. So she's my wife of almost 40 years. And so she does a wonderful job of handling everybody's everything. You know, the more guys you have, the more problems there's going to be. And so she's kind of like, sometimes she says it's like herding cats, you know. I remember one time we were playing the Catalina Jazz Festival on Catalina Island, and you'd have to take a boat over there. It's a Catalina Express, and we parked on the top of the parking structure. You know, you get there in the morning, you take the ship over there, you play your show, and they hold the last boat for you to come back to Long Beach. And so everybody's up there on the top floor parking, and there's one of the guys, he's no longer with us, but he was always kind of a needy guy. I won't mention his name, but he looks at Andrea and says, "Where's the elevator?" And he's standing about 20 feet from it. You know, that's the kind of questions she'd get, you know, like, this, you know what the men's room is? Well, once you see that sign that says men, you know, I mean, sometimes it's comical. Sometimes it's a little bit, you know, crazy, but, you know, she does a wonderful job and handles the band great. And she gets us from point A to B, always, you know, always on time and everything like that. It's, you know, traveling, if it's 2 people or it's 10 people, you know, it can be a challenge. And the more people, the more of a challenge it is, especially at airports. And, you know, when we play the East Coast, you got to leave at 6 a.m, which means you got to get up at 3 o'clock to get to the airport. You know, and then play a show that night, you know, or you go in and you have to start early, because if something happens with the delays in flights, then you got to be able to bounce back and plan B, you know, or C. So one time we went to Seattle, and we were at Burbank Airport, and they canceled the flight. They tried to get us on something else. They couldn't, so they had to take the whole band to Long Beach, which is an hour away, to fly up to Seattle and Long Beach. And they picked us up at Seattle Airport, and it took us all day to get to Seattle. And it's not that far. It's a 2.5-hour flight. But because of delays and this and that, and it was just a nightmare. We literally ran into the club with our luggage, opened our suitcases, changed, and the audience was watching us as we come in. They'd been waiting. We were late.
Oh, man.
We changed in the dressing room, suitcases all over the place, and came out and played the show. And it, you know, much to the, you know, we pulled it off. And then there was another time when just recently we were on our way home from Seattle playing at Jazz Alley, and the airline canceled our flight into LAX. Or maybe it was Burbank. But they wanted us, and they let us know that it had been canceled about a half an hour before we're going to go to the airport or something like that.
Oh, lovely.
Leave the hotel. And so, but they wanted to fly us to Portland. Well, and there was no flights out of Portland to get back to LAX that day. So what they did was they flew us from Seattle to Orange County, which is way south of LAX. That's right. We were at LAX because our cars were parked at LAX. Oh. So we had to take Uber from John, which is about 45 minutes up to LAX to get our cars to go home. It was a nightmare.
Wow.
We got credits for flights, which we used the next time we went to Seattle. It's had that going for us. But, you know, that's the kind of stuff that is a challenge today.
But you know something, Greg, that
full day traveling, and the challenges. You have a challenge on the stage. I mean, you get there and you got up at 3 a.m. and you have to perform that night. How do you handle that?
Well,
to eat, you know.
It's funny. Huey Lewis said this once, and it's so true. You know, it's the 22 hours of the day that are the hard part. The 2 hours on the stage, that's the easy part.
Okay.
That's work, you know, and it's true. You know, the travel is what kicks your butt. But you know, once you get on the stage, that's our office, that's our home base, and so we just that's what we do. That's why we're there in that town.
Right.
Why come instead of dealing with all these airlines and stuff getting delayed? Why come you don't have a bus?
Well, you know, sometimes the distance we have to go in one day we couldn't cover that kind of you know, takes two days to drive to Seattle, say, you know. When you have a tour bus, you're going from city to city to city, and it's all planned out, so you're only driving for 2 or 3, you know, 200 miles or something like that. A lot of times you have to play the show and drive overnight, you know, and kind of stuff. That's tough. But, you know, these tour buses, they have bunks and, you know, kitchens and stuff like that. But still, you know, we get these big 20 seat or 20 person luxury chauffeur-driven vehicles that holds all our luggage and instruments, and that's a form of transportation we do. We did that in Las Vegas, and it's so much easier to do that than rent cars. You got to go to the rent-a-car thing and get the car, and then you got to turn it back in at the airport. Here are these kind of buses; they just pick you up at the baggage claim and you go. So that's a good way to go. It's a lot easier and
yeah, especially when you have that huge group of people, and equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
And traveling is exhausting, even if you're on a luxury bus.
Yeah, you know, but it's part of the business that we're in. You know, you have to play for people. You got to travel to get to them. So, you know, it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Oh, and I know that you were called in to fill in for one of the horn players when Letterman was still on.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
When I was still in Tower and David was on NBC, it was.
No, this is when you were. This for CBS.
Yeah, well, it goes back. I'll sit.
Oh, okay.
Tower horns used to sit in with Paul Schaefer's band when we would be in New York City playing a club called The Bottom Line, and they tape at 4:30 in the afternoon. So we would be at Rockefeller Center to do that, and then immediately after we finished taping, we'd get downtown to the Village and play this club called The Bottom Line. And so that's the beginning of the entire relationship. So fast forward, when they moved to CBS, Paul was afforded a much larger band. And so it was like a 8 or 9 piece band instead of just the quartet that originally was. So I was on the show several times throughout my solo career, just as a guest sitting in, and for one night here and there. And Dave would always hold up my CD, which was great publicity. And because of my friendship with Paul, we have, you know, stayed in contact over the years. We talk all the time. And so they had a trumpet player who had left, and Paul called me one afternoon. I was at a gig, and he said, would you like to come and play with the band? And I thought, wow, what an opportunity. But with all that, it was such the dilemma of living here in Los Angeles and really having to move to New York City, because you work 4 days a week and it's been ridiculous to commute, and the cost of living in New York City is just crazy. Yeah. And what do I do? And so, but I said yes, and we were looking at real estate and stuff like that, and the time came and I did the week. But I'm a jazz player. I'm not the kind of guy who plays the high notes. I always have hired guys to play the high notes for me. And as it turned out, Frank, the guy who is now playing trumpet, he came in after I did the week, because I wasn't the guy, and it was no hard feelings or anything like that. I mean, I get along great with all the guys in the band. We're all old pals and stuff like that, but Paul even said to me, just come back and do the week, because we really don't know what is in the future for Dave, because he may be retiring. We don't know. He may retire in 6 months. He may retire in, who knows? And he said, I hate to see you move to New York City and then, be kind of not stuck, but, right. And then Dave stayed on for a year or two later, and then, but it was good. I'm glad I'm always happy to play on that show, and it's a lot of fun, and so but it worked out all for the better. I'm still here in Los Angeles. I still live in my home that I love very much, and it's just better. I'm a West Coast guy anyway. My wife Andrea is from New York City, and
but it's so expensive still to like LA. It's expensive to live out there.
Yeah, but I'm here, and I've lived in this house for almost 3 decades, and so I've seen
paid for you too.
it's appreciated quite a lot, So I'll say that, and I know the lay of the land here, and New York City's a pretty rough town to get around in, and I've been there for many years as a traveling musician, and it's not so bad when you're in a hotel and you just play 3 nights and you get out of there. But that's a dog eat dog back there, you're right
about that. You're definitely right about that.
I had the opportunity to do the whole week on the show, but it's okay, it was a lot of fun.
I bet. Hey, have you ever been mistaken for Paul Schaefer?
It's funny you should ask. Not very often, but Paul and I would, when I was doing the show, if I was just doing a guest one night thing, and go to rehearsal and or meet for lunch and walk down the street from the Ed Sullivan Theater and to oh God, now I can't remember the name of it's a steakhouse where they know him very well, and so. The waiters did a double take once, but he shaves his head. I still have a little bit of hair left. But I think it was the glasses. We were pretty crazy glasses.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy, a dear friend, and a fabulous musician.
I want to go back to, because you said that you were going to Berkeley, but this opportunity with Tower Power changed your plans. How did you train? Did you in private lessons? Did you train classically? How did it all start, and how did you train?
I picked up a trumpet, a cornet, actually, when I was about 5 years old. My family was musical, and I kind of carried it around for 5 years. I didn't really get a sound out of it until I was about 10 years old. And through the years, I just had a natural ability, and I did take private lessons, yes. And when I got to high school, they had a really good jazz band, and freshmen were not allowed in the jazz band. They had to put in a year in the marching band or the concert band, which was really boring. And I hated marching band, but their lead trumpet player had graduated, and they had nobody to fill that spot. And they had heard about me in junior high school, and so the band director asked me if I would like to be in the jazz band, but you got to still be in the marching band. And so I said, sure, I'll do that. So by the time sophomore year came around, I was kind of I thought the repertoire was kind of corny and old-fashioned, and the jazz band was kind of a little too swingy. And these two bands that were coming up, becoming very popular in pop music, Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears, were coming to San Francisco to play the Fillmore West. And I would borrow my dad's car when I had my driver's license, and I'd drive down to see them. And I got to know Lou Soloff, the trumpet player with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and Lee Loughnane, the trumpet player from Chicago. And I started to write. I started to arrange for the jazz band, but I would do more original things, and I'd do arrangements of pop songs, that some of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and some Chicago. And it was a really good jazz band. The population of the student body was about 4,000 kids, so you had a pretty good pool of talent. So and we would go to Reno and play at the competitions and win in our category every year I went. And by the end, we were doing all my original compositions.
Wow.
And the band director said in my junior year, he said, listen, why don't you just lead this band? And this is going to be your laboratory to experiment and learn by your mistakes. I really never studied writing with anybody. I listened to a lot of people. I listened to Nelson Riddle and Quincy Jones and the great original Henry Mancini. And I borrowed and I learned how to make my own sound. And so by the time I graduated high school, I was going to go to Berkeley, and Doctor, the baritone player from Tower of Power, who I'd known these guys but never played with them. They were a bar band, and I was in another bar band or a bar band here or something like that. And they said they had an opening. Would I like to come over? And I said, well, I'm going to do this, go to Boston, So well, why don't you just come over? And so I went over to Berkeley. I had to take, I think I took a bus because I didn't have a car because I was staying with a friend because I was going to go to Boston.
Right.
And so I went over and played, and they immediately asked me to join. They were in just at the point of overdubbing the horns on East Bay Grease, which was the first album on Atlantic Records. And so we finished out the horn overdubs, and I was in the band, and I didn't go to Berkeley, but I figured that, this is an opportunity at 18 years of age that I would go to school for 5 or 6 years and maybe hope to get an opportunity like this. And you got to understand, in the early 70s, the music business, especially in the San Francisco Bay Area, was just exploding. There was so much going on. And so I kind of went to the University of Tower of Power as opposed to Berkeley School of Music. And I got to do all the things that I hoped I could do after going to college. Immediately, I'm a recording artist. Immediately, I'm touring. And after a few years, I'm buying a house, and I'm going around the world, and I'm playing on all these recording dates with all these artists I was telling before. And so, it was a great education. And I used to say this stupid thing. I said, I got a chance to do all the things I hoped I could do, which is travel, see the world, and meet girls. So I'm not sorry. Sometimes when it gets a little, in the past when it's been a little lean, I kind of wish I would have had a teaching certificate. But I don't regret any of it. And been around the world so many times and met so many great musicians. One time we were playing the Playboy Jazz Festival, and I was walking upstairs in the dressing room, and coming downstairs was Arturo Sandoval, and I said, "Hi, I really wanted to introduce myself." He said, "Oh, I know who you are, man. Oh, you're a guitar player." He knew my name, and I was going, "Wow." So, it's a little tiny story of things that have been. But musically, this new record is really we're really looking forward to having people hear it and see us live, and the new single Possibilities, like I said earlier, is coming out in a couple days. It's already getting some good airplay, and so we're hoping you'll play that at some point.
Oh yeah.
And also, this song that we're going for with all the Grammy nominations, Our Love Divine, which features Darryl Walker on the vocals. It's just an exquisite song. And you got to listen to the lyric. It's a lyric by Rocky Moffat, who his penmanship is just, like I said, exquisite. This song is so beautiful. So if we can squeeze those two in, I'll be happy as a clam.
That won't be a problem there.
Okay.
Well, Grizz, I think I only got like 5 tracks sent to me. I didn't get the whole album.
Sent you I sent you the whole thing.
I only received 5. The very first 5 tracks off the CD. So I don't know. Did you send them in a separate email?
I don't remember. It should have been.
I'll have to go back and look, but
2 separate files, Andrea said.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
in fact, I'll check on that right now. Hold on.
We got to hear it now.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I know.
Because I know I sent it to you.
Okay.
What was the
Greg,
title?
won't you bring Andrea up so we can meet Andrea?
What was the title about Divine?
Our Love Divine.
Our Love Divine.
I want to hear that one now. That sounds awesome.
Greg,
Were you ever called a child prodigy?
Not to my face.
It sounds like it, because everything came so natural to you.
My mother was a trombonist and a piano player and a singer, and both of my parents were ministers in the Salvation Army. And the Salvation Army has a really big music program because the Salvation Army is a British based organization, and brass bands are really big in Great Britain. And so all brass, no reeds, cornets, alto horns, flugelhorns, trombones, tubas, baritone horns. And it's a very traditional thing in Great Britain. So it transferred to America. And the Salvation Army has summer camps that they take underprivileged kids and mothers and children out from the inner city and get them out in the woods and to camp in cabins and get them fed well and have outdoor activities, swimming pool, stuff the kids just wouldn't get. I'm talking in the 60s, the 50s, and it still goes on today. And the Salvation Army has some beautiful properties that they have all over the United States for this reason. But one 10-day period every summer was a band camp. And it was all about music. And I started off in the D band, which is the worst, when I was a little. And I came up through the ranks. By the time I was 16, I was playing first chair cornet in the A band. And this is in Northern California, down near Santa Cruz, at Camp Redwood Glen. And so that was my background. I mean, that's where I learned how to play. And it really shaped me to become. And when I got to high school, I had to switch from cornet. I had to play trumpet, so I bought my first trumpet, and so that's kind of like where I come from. And my father was a missionary. He was in China and India during World War II, and and was also in Vietnam right at the end of the war over there. And so, and we moved a lot because the Salvation Army, they transfer you all over the place. We lived in San Francisco, we lived in Portland, we lived in Houston, Spokane, Washington. I stayed in San Francisco when my parents went to Anchorage, Alaska, and I stayed at the home of some family friends and finished my high school. Then my dad went to Vietnam, and then my folks went to Hong Kong, and by this time I was in Tower of Power. But that's a big part of my background is learning music in that organization, because it's some very fine musicians have come out of the Salvation Army brass band program.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's a kind of a cool story. People go, huh? But yeah.
Right.
Won't you do this, Greg? Won't you bring Andrew up so we can also meet her?
Oh, she's camera shy today.
Oh, Lord.
She can say hi off camera.
That's all right. So
we're not on camera, are we?
No, we're not.
No. Just us four.
Mm-hmm.
5.
Let me see. When we go to break or you play something else, I'll go find her.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you find those other tracks?
I'm still looking at my
I did. I just emailed them to Gary.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, maybe we're not ready for a break just yet, because I want to hear it. I love Divine. I'm going to have to mute you guys so I can turn up my YouTube so I can hear it. But you mentioned earlier that Phil Perry was part of your group for a season.
Yeah, for a short period of time. And we, it's all about chemistry, and how things work out and everything like that. And, it takes sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't. And it was one of those situations where it just wasn't going to work. There were no hard feelings, just it wasn't going to work. Phil was a solo artist on his own, and he had that career going for him. So, so it was one of those things where, you have to kind of weigh what's going to be best for everybody. And it was better for him that he moved on, and it was better for us because eventually we have found Daryl,
Yep.
and it stopped there when we got Daryl.
But I have to tell you, in Tower of Power, when I first heard was that 70s? When I first heard, I love the Barry sax. Bringing the bottom like that. I remember, because we were a group of kids, we were not into that kind of music. We were like, the Motown, not Motown, but the R&B. That's going on, or the funk. And then here comes relatively new sound, if you will, that was funky with some great horn parts. And when we heard the Barry, because we were all kids in the marching band, so we were familiar with musical instruments, so we were just so delighted. But we were band geeks anyway. So, that's what they call the band kids.
Sure.
But we were just really into Tower of Power, because I remember we're in the car with, I played sax in the marching band, another saxophone player, and a girl tuba player, and he turned up the volume in his truck, Tower of Power, and we had our hands in the air, mimicking and doing everything. We were just having a great time. So,
well, it's funny because I was a band geek too. I mean, so I know what you're talking about. But, the instrumentation of the horn section, when I came into the band, there was 2 trumpets, and Mick Gillette, who played he played lead trumpet, but he also played trombone, which is kind of freakish. It's a real knack to be able to play both instruments like that. They're so far apart, And then 2 tenor saxophones and a baritone, and so that was that's kind of like, that was the hand I was dealt, you know what I mean, as far as being, and they knew that I was an arranger, and they I think that's one of the reasons they brought me in too, because I kind of organized it. It was kind of I don't know, it wasn't very organized when I came in. And I kind of, after the East Bay Grease record, because they had horn parts that they'd been playing for years on that stuff, or for a long time anyway. And then on the next record, which was Bump City, that's where I kind of got my hands wet and started writing beforehand and getting everything organized. And the horn section started to take its shape, you know. And I say this humbly, but you know, I created that sound of the horn section because I am the arranger for that sound. And when I left, I took it with me. And you know, so I'm very proud of that. And I've contemporized it now in East Bay Soul. And so we kind of took it into 2018 as so far, and you know, they're kind of still in 1974, you know. And you know, it's amazing the longevity of that band, because you know, they still travel the world and they still have a loyal following that comes. They have kids that come to the shows all over the world that are just band geeks. It's exactly. They're an outlet. It's an outlet for kids to play horns. And it's a very musical group, you know, and they're on their 50th year this year. I played with them at the Hollywood Bowl a few months ago. They were closing the Sunday night show for the Playboy Jazz Festival, and they had me on as a special guest for So Very Hard to Go and What Is Hip, which are two songs that I played the flugelhorn solo and So Very Hard to Go and the trumpet solo in What Is Hip. So it was fun, you know. I have fond memories of being in a band. I have, you know, all kinds of memories, you know, and I'm so happy that I left when I did, and I'm so grateful to the opportunities that I've had, you know, ever since. I think the best thing that ever happened to me was one night in New York City. I met Andrea, my wife, of almost 39 years, and that's my high point in my career. And so that I got that going for me. So, and that's the best thing. But you know, it's an amazing run to be in this business for 50 years, which I did my first professional gig at the age of 16. So I guess I can say 52 years.
Right.
You know, it's a roller coaster ride. Let's be serious. You know, it has its ups and downs, and you're kind of working without a net most of the time. But you know, if you can get this far, you know, you must have been doing something right. So I'm happy to say I'm a survivor.
Well, you know, this with Tower Power, you know, they still doing the same thing. The same thing, just like Frank and Beverly. Same thing, and still drawing that crowd.
That's right, and you know, and more power to them. You know,
yeah,
they're still playing my arrangements.
Yes. Well, I don't know if we mentioned it on the air, but What Is Hip? You received a Grammy nomination for that particular hit.
Yeah, I did that arrangement. It wasn't from the original. It was from a record that we did on a audiophile record company called Sheffield Lab, and it was on. We did a whole album for that company, and we did What Is Hip, and it got nominated for a Grammy in 1981, and for Best Arrangement accompanying a vocal, and. But that was the year that Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones were up for everything, and they won everything. So, but I was a nominee. I made it to the final 5, and I'm very proud of that. And so, you know, that's cool. But I worked with Quincy and with the brothers Johnson years ago, and that was a lot of fun. But,
so, is there anyone you have not worked with? Why don't we start there?
Right.
Elvis Presley.
You know, what I love about music is that you never get too old for it. if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's right. You know, never get too old.
You just keep doing it.
That's right.
That is awesome. Well, congratulations on all your achievements.
Well, thank you very much. So I hope you can get that music up so you can play it for the folks out there who are listening. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Oh yeah, same here. Well, we're trying to get it set up here.
Okay.
They're still in the. I guess they're waiting in the chat line too.
Probably yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Hey,
And I know I sent it all to Gary.
Here's that file.
Yeah.
Not going to work because it has an expiration on it.
As well, the one that I sent you.
Well, the last
just
two,
now.
Last two you just said that I have to have Google's permission from whoever.
Oh, crying out loud.
Yeah.
Because I know I sent you all of it.
It didn't make it then because I've been checking my files. The only one I got was the very first one that had the first 6 files on it.
Why don't you play Quiet Scream? That's number 3.
We got that.
That's a pretty evocative song. I wrote that with a songwriter partner of mine. His name is Billy Kent, and we recorded this with Tower Power several years ago. But I wanted to re-record it and bring it up to snuff, bring it up to date. The lyric is very poignant. It's called Quiet Scream, and it addresses the problems of child abuse. And it's kind of haunting, and it's a real pretty. It's got a full orchestra on it, and violins and flutes and brass and everything like that. So if you can play that, that'd be great. I think the fans would like to hear some music.
There we go. All right, listeners.
Good.
We're gonna go ahead and go into Quiet Scream, and we'll probably do Spanish Moon right after that as well. All right, so keep it locked right here. We'll be right back.
Sun goes down, small town, on the street, not a soul around. Home cooked food, romances the breeze. Another slice of apple pie, please. Something's going on, no one's quite sure. A quiet scream can't be what it seems. Sleepless nights, tear-soaked sheets. Another night of fear, never knowing if the monster's near. So innocent, so true. What a child learns to hate. Can't help but love too. Something's going on, no one's quite sure. A quiet scream can't be what it seems. what it seems. Child learns to hate, can't help but love too. Something's going on, no one's quite sure. A quiet scream can't be what it seems. Something's going on, no one's quite sure. A quiet scream
always trying to expand.
Right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and that was some more great sounds from our music guest, Mr. Greg Adams. And wow, that was beautiful music, man. The whole CD is great. Of course, once we'll get the other tunes, play for our listeners later. But we just want to appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking out the time to hang out with us today, because we really enjoyed having you on today.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope to do it again one of these days, and I hope the listeners are enjoying the music. So thanks for having me, and we'll see you around.
Right. Thank you, Greg.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello to you, Greg.
Goodbye.
Website.
Do you know how to turn it off, Greg?
Yeah.
We'll just wait till you find it. Yes. Come on, Gris, help him out.
And in the meantime,
put the cursor up, yeah.
always stay with me. I like Benjamins, ooh baby, give me a feminine lady. This is crazy. You can have what you want, even a little bit of what you don't. It is crazy. This is crazy, baby. Ooh, just like Nikki can't live without it. Give it up and just forget about it. It's crazy. Always stay with me. Jumping in head first without it. Think you're getting out? I doubt it. Crazy. She said that. Always stay with me. You can say what you want, 'cause I'm fine, so fine. You can say what you want, always be mine. You can say what you want, I'll be on your mind. You can say what you want, I'll get you every time. Change my mind about you. There's no living life without you. My heart, it turns about the love I have for thee. Ride with me, ride with me. You can lie with me, lie with me. Beside of me, side of me. You can die for me. I got the flavor like this. Feel it, yeah, 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 yeah. And she said that. Always stay with me. I like Benjamins, ooh baby, give me a feminine lady. Oh lady, this is crazy, ooh baby. You can have what you want, even a little bit of what you don't. It is crazy. This is crazy, baby. Ooh, just like Nikki can't live without it. Can't live without it. It is crazy. Always stay with me. Jumping in head first without it. Crazy. She said that. Always stay with me. You can say what you want, 'cause I'm fine, so fine. You can say what you want, always be mine. You can say what you want, I'll be on your mind. You can say what you want, I'll get you every time. Oh
right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and I hope you enjoyed that little brief set of music there. That was Real Bounce with Mr. Phil Denny, Always by Mr. Wilfred Freelix, and Sonic Boom by Mr. Darren Ron. And we want to also thank once again, Mr. Greg Adams for coming on the show and hanging out with us. I hope you guys enjoyed that and enjoyed the music as well. And so anyway, it's about 8 minutes or so, 7 minutes for us to wrap it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and just say goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves out there. Be sure to come and be here next week because we do have a music guest, Mr. Big New York. That's what they call him. But his real name is Christian Damasonis. So he's going to be coming through. And Grizz, he got like what, some shows or something that's coming up pretty soon?
Yeah, he's got a show coming up. We're in November.
Yeah. So I'm sure once he gets
with
here,
some cool guests.
Yeah. He'll tell us all about it, and it'll be pretty cool to talk to him again because we had fun the last time we had him on.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah.
Always a fun time with Christian.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, in fact, I got some of his music. He actually sent me some live stuff too, Grizz.
Yeah.
And then he sent me the actual CD that we lost. When I lost that hard drive stuff. So.
Right.
So we'll be able to relive that and talk with him next week and see what he's got going on.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, Joyce, what you have going on? I know you're here with us this week, but I know you've been busy a lot lately.
Yes, I've been busy, but today the Blues Festival I talked about last week, we talked about it got rained out. But that's okay. They are very professional, and we're getting paid anyway. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about people are now reaching out to wanting to.
Wait a minute, Joyce. I really can't hear you because Ray's got the paperwork in the background.
Yeah, just hit mute, Mac.
Sorry, peeps. He's doing it again.
The noisemaker. The noisemaker.
Alice strikes again.
Noisemaker. But people are now reaching out to GHP Radio wanting to be on the show. So we received an inquiry from the Miracles of Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. So cool. Some things going on there. So we hope to have them on the show soon.
Nice.
And of course, I have private events coming up. I just got booked at the Balcony Club in December 7th. For everybody in the DFW area, my band's going to be back there again for a public gig. So, and I still have a few dates that I'd like to fill in. This is the time of the year that you try to get as much as you can, of course. But I don't remember if Greg was, if he were able to give his URL, his website address.
No, he didn't. No.
Yeah, eastbaysoul.com, eastbaysoul.com. So you guys listening in the chat room or listening, go to that website so you can keep up with what's going on with this band and their future events. I sure would like to go. Hopefully when I'm in LA next year, I can catch a show. So, but anyway, that's it, guys. I'm looking forward to some great shows. I know because I have some Saturdays booked. I may have to miss one here and there, but you guys will always be in my heart. How was that?
Well.
And of course, I had a great time today listening to this icon talk about his life of envy.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, people like me envy people like them. They come right out of high school and their lives are set. And that's beautiful. What a blessing. It
is a blessing.
But I think it's great that he knows that it is a blessing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to have that much talent just oozing out of you at such a young age. It's just it's amazing, and it's hard to wrap my brain around that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So just like, even like with the two of you could come up with some awesome music, and I was like, I can't wrap my brain around that. It's like, how does that? It's just like, it's mind-boggling to me that you guys can come up with such great music all the time. I'm like, wow. So, and I was like, oh, and see, I envy that.
Mm-hmm. I know how you feel, because I was listening to him going, oh my God, he just came out of high school. I had to go to college for all these years and study, and still didn't make it. So, you know, I mean, everybody's path is different, and but our paths are different because it shapes who we are. Maybe we'd be completely different people if we did it. But when you think about it, when you think about his parents and their lifetime of service to humanity, that's, you know, God has a way of blessing all your seed too. So, you know what I mean? It's, I don't mean to go all spiritual on you guys, but when you think about how humble his parents were in terms of serving and military and humanity and whatever. So,
and that ingrained that in him. So when he had this opportunity, he's still very humble about it. So, yeah.
And you know, a lot of people just in the right place at the right time.
Well,
yeah. You know, that's really just the bottom line. They're right there at the right time.
And some of us in the wrong place at the wrong time.
You know, for 50 years, it just came to him just like that. You know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, say
That's
bye-bye.
all right.
Say bye-bye.
Well, see y'all next week. Bye.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Chat room, thank you for chiming in as well, being here with us. You guys have a great weekend. Take care, and we'll see you next week with Christian Demasonis.
All right, folks. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
Ciao.
Comes over me when you're around. Shakes my soul, you got me reeling. It takes me to a higher ground. We blended in like long lost friends from the moment that we met. Now you are part of me. Can't you see? We're as close as we can get. Could happen. Someone like you could be found. And now you got my heart a tapping. You've changed my life.